All right. So we are joined by the Director of Sales, Chris Olson, Senior Sales Executive, Dwayne Napier, and Sales Executive, Kevin Bonsall. So we have real salespeople. These are not paid actors or anything like that, with a wealth of knowledge and skills that have learned how to leverage the power of AI. And we will each hear from them today. So thank you all again for joining us. And Rich, do you want to kick us off with the first question?
Yeah, certainly. And I'll maybe I'll pick on Chris, my supervisor, because as salespeople, we weren't really privy to this, and kind of inquiring minds want to know. But Chris, as director of sales, leading our team, you've had a bird's eye view of how our sales teams, how we've integrated D365 for sales and Copilot into our workflows. So can you tell our audience, what's the most critical challenge you were trying to solve when adopting these tools, and when you decided on the approach and how to roll those out?
Sure, would be glad to. Thanks, Rich. So one of the things that we were looking to address was just improving the quality of data that we have in our CRM system. So we at Stoneridge rely on CRM and the data that we have in there to help run our business. So it's critical that we keep that information up to date. But as most sales leaders can appreciate, it's a difficult challenge to try to figure out balancing asking your sales team to spend time entering data into CRM versus where you want them spending valuable time with clients and sales activities. So trying to figure out how we could help sort of bridge that gap. So the approach that we took was just to put the seller first. So kind of a sales first mindset, and thinking about how AI could help the individual just be more effective at your job, maybe save time in entering data into CRM, and then ultimately just help the seller get better insights in terms of their sales activity. So we did this through a pilot approach. That was kind of how we tackled it. Just started with a few sellers, which helped us get immediate feedback, kind of learn quickly from their experiences. But ultimately, Rich, what we wanted to do is just get buy-in from yourself and the sales team so that they're excited about using the technology and figuring out how it could really help you do your job.
Yeah, that worked really well.
All right, so I am going to pick on you, Dwayne. So as a senior sales executive, you are hands-on with these tools daily. Can you walk us through a specific example of how Copilot helped you streamline a previously time-consuming process?
Yeah, certainly. And as Chris mentioned, the data's got to be in CRM. And so I'll highlight a couple of things here that I think I really get a lot of benefit from, that there's been a noticeable difference. So being a salesperson, we don't like to click more than a couple things to accomplish tasks, right? And so we want ease of entry. So I would say if there's a productivity increase that helps more than one thing, then that's a big win. And the things that I really experience, I'm not talking like huge productivity boost, but we can take advantage of these different things that really help everyday tasks. And so, we sell the value of CRM to our clients day in and day out. And again, if it's not in CRM, then reporting and follow up and the overall picture of the client, it's really not being captured. So I would say with the very first thing, it's using Copilot in that Outlook interface, because so many people live in Outlook every day. With Copilot and Outlook, it makes it very easy to add contacts and the opportunity information into CRM. Therefore, it's really tracking that conversation history. So, you could do that before Copilot, but Copilot makes it very easy to add CRM data in just a few clicks. And now, we're tracking more items in CRM, and it does help capture the next steps and last actions for a client. And I would say the other example is in also Copilot and Outlook. It's having immediate access to that CRM data through a summary it provides with the underlying account contact opportunity. And at Stoneridge, what we do is we use the integrated Teams experience. And I find it very nice to be able to single click into the Teams channel directly from Outlook. And that actually saves me time clicking around at Teams, finding the channels, and then getting to the right channel or folder.
So actually in asking this, I was curious to see how you would answer, to see if we're doing the same things, and I actually learned a couple of things. So thank you for that. So as a seller myself, I know there's so many ways to make our days more productive, and you really hit the nail on the head when it comes to saving time in CRM. I know we all struggle with the amount of time that we're given in a day. We want to spend more face time with our customers instead of updating CRM. So love that call out. All right, next question, Rich.
Yeah, well, we don't want to leave Kevin out in the rain there. We want to make sure Kevin can participate here. But Kevin, you're in the trenches, right? Like we all are, directly working with prospects. But I'm curious, what was the biggest challenge you faced when transitioning to this, I don't know, kind of the Copilot way of doing things, and what advice would you give others going through similar implementation?
Yeah, I love that. Biggest challenge, I would say, is change. You know, that's tough for a lot of people, right? It's human nature that you want to build a consistent, repeatable process to make your life easier. I do that in my personal life. I definitely do it in my professional life. When I opened up to the idea that changing my process that I've used for years and tweaked a little bit here and there, but utilizing a new tool like Copilot for Sales is just going to help some of my shortcomings, and utilize technology to improve those. Like Dwayne was saying, like Amanda was saying, some of those tools that just get the data there easier. Maybe it's not reducing every click, but it's reducing some, and it's making things faster and more accurate. So I think the second half of that, my advice: don't be stubborn. You know, like I was at the beginning of this. Change is tough sometimes, but try to embrace it. You know, Microsoft has spent a lot of money, a lot of time to expand the capabilities of the platform. Take advantage of it. Like, you know, there's ways to improve your effectiveness and efficiency if you embrace it.
Yeah, I like that, and I think I had a little similar experience, which was like, I probably didn't think this was going to be a beneficial feature, and you kind of start and you try it, and then sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, and I think probably if you're like me, you're probably coming across the real valuable portions of it that you're kind of doing on a day-to-day basis. You're almost doing it kind of matter-of-factly or without thinking, and others you do have to try it because you never know. I mean, you never know what may work. Thanks for that response, Amanda.
All right, so Chris, from a leadership perspective, since implementing D365 Sales and Copilot, what improvements have you seen, and how has that influenced your team's overall strategy?
Yeah, good. This is a big one. So there's got to be value, and we did identify some key metrics that we wanted to track as part of the project. So I guess, first of all, I will say we're still early in the process. We just finished our pilot, and we're kind of rolling out. So our sample size is small, but we have already noticed just immediate improvement in terms of the amount of data and sort of the time-sensitive nature of which we're collecting data into our CRM system. So there were three primary metrics that we wanted to track sort of before and after our pilot. The first was just frequency of which our sales opportunities were updated in CRM. So we wanted to get that to be more real-time. The second was just activities created. So we hadn't really pushed hard that we wanted to track every email, every meeting, sort of every phone call. It is something we haven't really pushed hard, but this sort of gave us an opportunity to see how Copilot could assist with just tracking some of that sales activity. And then the third one was just contacts created, which we often, when we start a prospect, we identify sort of our primary contact, and that's important. But then as we build additional relationships in an account, we're not always going back and adding and updating all the contact information. So those were three metrics we cared about. Those might seem really, really simple as data points, but it is important for us to look at that as a sales leadership team because it shows us like sales activity, trends, and sort of helps us look at overall sales performance in a centralized way. So during our pilot, we actually did measure this, again, small sample size, but we noticed 41% growth in opportunities updated. So that means it was just happening real time as Copilot would assist. 75% growth in activities created. Again, we weren't really tracking that as diligently in the past, so this just made it really easy for our sellers to track their sales activities. And then finally, just the growth in contacts created. So just sort of that assistant when you're emailing and you have a contact, yeah, let's put that contact in CRM. So basically what that did for our strategy is partially just confirm that Copilot for Sales is a good assistant. So you can just continue to work how you normally work in email and interact with your clients, and Copilot will just assist with getting those activities updated. So that was really, key validation for us. So it helps our sellers keep focusing on their day-to-day activities, but assist with updating that in CRM.
So I love these measurable metrics. I'm glad you're on here to share your perspective because, we talk about Copilot all the time. I'm sure everybody is hearing about it and what it can do, all the cool features and functionality. But this right here shows why it's so important. So I love that. All right, next question. Rich?
Yeah, and Amanda, one little note on the growth, just on the growth of contact. So it's not just contacts for contact's sake, right? The quality of the contact too. So what I found when I add a contact is it's reading the signature from the email of my respondent. And so I have the title, I have their email, I have their information, whatever's in there. So I think my marketing team definitely appreciates that, the richness of that data. So that, again, these are really small things. I think they bear saying because it does drive the needle. But well, I just thought I'd add that. But Dwayne, back to you. What hurdles or learning curves when first adopting Copilot? How did you overcome them?
Hey, we're a Microsoft shop, so we don't have any learning hurdles, right? It's like everything's just Jello.
Right.
But I think I could speak for several people. There were learning curves. Copilot's this, cutting edge thing that they rolled out. And the way that our team implemented it was holistic, where we looked at the 3 different user interfaces. So the one is the web UI for CRM that we love and we're in it every day. The second is the Outlook interface. And again, we love that. We live in Outlook. And the third is Teams. So I did encounter a learning curve because of the 3 different UIs. And it was really the navigation. I didn't really see that it was completely straightforward at first. And so each of these interfaces, they have their own Copilot navigation button on the menu and then sometimes on the actual screen of like a record that you're in. And so the actual UI interface, when you click that, I had to get familiar with that. What's going to happen when I click it in the menu versus the screen. So the way I actually overcame that was simply repetition. So I forced myself to use Copilot in the web UI of CRM, Outlook, and Teams. And so that way I really started to understand how I can use that data or that specific functionality with that specific button click and where that was. So naturally, as I continued to use Copilot in the different UIs, I did become more familiar with its capabilities and the optimal way that I could interact with it. And so after a period of time, I found I was making my own decisions on what I felt really helped me and which features gave me the most benefit. So I would say overall, while there was definitely a learning curve, because I was doing it in a repetitive motion day in, day out, I would forget, oh yeah, that's in Teams or that's in Outlook. I would go back to that and I would just say repetition. So definitely a learning curve, but I think we'd all agree that the benefits that we have gotten from Copilot and the amount of time it reduces on a lot of those tasks, they definitely outweigh the navigation challenges.
Thanks for that.
All right, so this next one is for Kevin. How has using Copilot impacted your ability to connect with prospects? Could you share an example where it helped you create a stronger and more meaningful customer interaction?
Yeah, but meaningful interaction is definitely important in our line of business for sure. And to piggyback a little bit more on what Dwayne was saying, it's low risk too, utilizing a tool like this. You get the benefit as you work through using the tool over and over again to get more and more comfortable with it. And still requires you to make the decisions of what you're going to do with the data there. As it ties into interactions with my customers, I work in the mid-market space. it can be very fast paced at times. So I'm working with a lot of different contacts at a lot of different times. Sometimes it's hard to build that connection, the meaningful connection, the trust, which I think is very important. I was actually out of the office for a couple of weeks very recently, and when I came back, I was excited to get back to being able to use Copilot for Sales now rolled out, because I could use the key email info portion to be able to much quicker go through the backlog of hundreds of emails that I had missed as I was out, right? And so I could see summarized information of every email chain. I didn't have to read through every single line of every single email to know what professionally and personally was thrown in there in each of those. And one of my contacts that I was working with was actually out on vacation during that window when I was out. So what I noticed was, while Copilot for Sales helped me summarize, here's the to-dos, right? Here's follow up on this, follow up on that. It also reminded me that that contact was out for a vacation over a certain period of time while I was out. So it was nice to be able to follow up with that resource in a timely fashion, or that contact on the professional things that were needed, but just to sprinkle in a little bit more of that connection, that meaningful interaction, and being memorable as one of many sales reps that they're probably working with. It reminded me of that personal side too, and just to follow up on, hey, how was your vacation? Things like that. So of course the summarization feature is very helpful for professional topics. I like that it also picks up on the other little things too, just to remind me to follow up on those and build that connection. And just one more thing, like, hey, we're listening. Hey, we're paying attention to what you're telling us and what's going on in your life. So that's always nice.
I love that. That's such a great call out. I'm also a huge fan of that feature. I was actually just out last week and I did the same thing. And you're right. It does allow us to be more personable with our customers. We do care, right? There's just not enough time in the day to catch up with everything, right? So love that.
Mm-hmm. And I'll like to for our folks on the call, if we have I believe we have the question and answer. Is that right? They can ask a question if they'd like to ask our panelists a question. But Chris, back to you. Getting leadership buy-in. Just to be clear, Stoneridge has to pay for the licenses too. We have to pay for the consultants that kind of helped us with this pilot. But getting that leadership for the new tech can be tricky, right? So what advice would you give organizations looking to justify the investment in tools like Copilot for their teams?
Sure. Well, yeah, again, being a technology company, it's a little easier for people to embrace new technology and get that buy-in. But I would say from just an overall, my advice would be, think about your vision, like what you want to accomplish with AI, but start small. So keep it simple, start smaller. Don't try to justify a project based on everything that AI can do. I mean, there's a lot of potential out there. There's a lot of things that can do. The options are endless, but that can be overwhelming to try to think too big. So I would say, if you start small, it's easier to get that justification for the investment, but it also gets you started as quickly as possible. So, if you're not already using AI, you're behind. I mean, it's been widely adopted, and I did a little homework for today and found that over 70% of U.S. companies have already implemented AI in some area of their business. So that tells you, you got to move quickly, and so that means, the sooner you can get exposed to AI, the more you can learn and the more you can benefit how it's going to help your organization. So I would say start small. Find some quick wins, learn along the way. It's okay to fail or figure out how things need to change, but get started small and then build on that.
That sounds like sage advice. Makes total sense. Yeah.
I love that, starting small, because I know at times investing in new technology, not only for IT, right, but for the broader organization, it can get overwhelming. And another thing that I would probably add to that is, maybe starting like a champion group or something, or your own AI resource group that could learn it on their own and then, share with others. That's another way to get things going. But all right, so next question. This is for Dwayne. Do you have an example of a time when you first started using Copilot where you felt like it was a game changer?
Yeah, I think all of us have probably been using AIs such as ChatGPT for like the last couple of years. And so now with Microsoft's investment in Copilot, I would say that the rollout of Copilot across the 3 user interfaces is great. Probably the game changer for me has been the summarization of meetings, including the automation of AI stating what the next steps are, and the ability to ask Copilot questions of the transcript. So, it's very easy now to forward the team's AI notes transcript to team members, and they can easily get caught up on missed meetings. And I think it gives you a heightened sense of being connected, as we're talking about. And I think it's similar to Kevin's feedback he was given a moment ago as well. So it's the meeting minutes, understanding what happened, and then also getting summarization of the email. So I think that was probably maybe a light bulb, like, wow, this is a game changer, because if you're out and you miss some things, someone can forward those meeting transcript and AI notes to you, or vice versa. And just minutes compared to hours, you can really get up to speed on the most important things.
So true. I love that. It just reminds me of our pre-Copilot days when I would have to share my own messy notes with somebody that wasn't able to join. And they have to decipher what I was putting in there. So yes, a huge game changer. All right. So next question, over to you, Rich.
Yeah, absolutely. So Kevin, looking more towards, I guess, the future in the next few years, what skills or approaches do you think a sales professional should focus on to stay ahead with respect to Copilot?
Yeah, I love that, especially because my past, prior to my career in sales, I was a product manager for some time, and I dabbled in building AI. I didn't have Microsoft behind me, so it didn't get very far, but to be able to see what Microsoft's done and where we see it going is just exciting. Copilot and tools like it, they're going to create efficiencies for sales roles like myself, like we've talked about so far on this panel. It will become more and more proactive versus reactive. And I think staying ahead is something we can do as sales team members by being creative. Make sure you understand all the complexities, all the variables that your customers bring to the table. And, there's certain things that you pick up on from human interaction that go into the requirements and all those complexities. Copilot's a great tool, but building those relationships with customers, it just can't yet. And so it's not going to replace problem solving based on all those variables that you pick up on over time and you put together to consider in solving a problem that's a complex environment like ERP and CRM.
No, totally get it. Thanks for that.
I love that.
Amanda.
Proactive versus reactive. I mean, I can empathize with that as well too. I live it every day. There's, like I mentioned before, there's not enough time in the day. So yes, being proactive is really key. All right. Last but not least, this one is for you, Chris. This is a good one. If there's one lesson you've learned about integrating AI into the sales process that you wish you knew earlier, what would it be?
Yeah, this is a good one. There's a lot we learn along the way as far as technology, but as far as lessons learned, I would say, and the team shared this, I think, throughout the process, but is that AI and Copilot for Sales is not like one size fits all. It's very personalized. It's very different for each one. So we started this project initially as a leadership team, thinking through use cases where we thought Copilot for Sales could be really beneficial. And so, I've been a seller before. I thought of some ideas. We identified a few kind of top use cases. And we learned quickly that, it's not just hey, here's my idea, go use it. It kind of has to be what works best for you. So that's why it was so important that we got our pilot team engaged really early. We always know that that's important, but get the users involved so we could get immediate feedback, and then we could adjust and reprioritize based on what's working or what's easier to adopt. So just allowing that feedback and keeping an open mind to what's going to work best for the individual was really a good lesson learned. So bottom line is just understanding, embracing each individual and let them figure out how they can best leverage the technology versus, me sort of have my mindset of like, hey, Dwayne, this is how I think you should use it. Just, come up with some ideas and gather that feedback early. So just understanding the individual and how they work is probably the biggest lesson.
Awesome. Use cases, having that pilot team, that's very helpful information, I think, for our audience. That's also a great point you made because, yeah, not everyone works the same and not everyone has the same responsibilities either. So kind of making it your own as well throughout that process.
Yeah, and I'll just piggyback on that. I'm working with a client now that has a pretty large sales organization, and so the idea is doing the POC, doing a pilot, doing on a subset of people, because I think organizationally you get those lessons learned. So then as you roll that out to the larger or the rest of the organization, now you're obviously kind of like refining and tweaking that whole thing. So yeah, that worked really well. So we're excited about that. But now moving it to the audience. So folks on the audience, you've been very quiet on the Q&A. I see a question coming in here. Oh, it was already here. Yeah, but feel free to put it in the Q&A. We'll get to the questions since we have Dwayne, Chris, and Kevin, and Amanda and myself here. But one question, what if my CRM data isn't great? Or I guess we can expand that to any data, but what if my CRM data isn't great? Does Copilot still work well? Thoughts on that question? I think every organization suffers with some sort of data quality, right?
Yeah, I can take that one, or at least initially, because I commented on why that was one of the challenges we were trying to address. So first of all, Copilot for Sales can just help improve the quality of the data. But it also, when you go through the right process, it identifies maybe data that you wish you had that you don't today. So it's not just depending on Copilot only, it is sort of reflecting on what data is important to you and how are you using CRM and are you using it effectively. So during our pilot, we actually identified a wish list as an outcome of that to say, here's what Copilot can do, but here's what we wished it could do, but we don't have our data structured that way today to take advantage. So it is a combination of taking a look at how you're using the solution today. Are there improvements? And again, Copilot's only going to be as smart as how you're collecting it. So I think it is twofold, and you need to spend some time figuring out how you optimize it.
Yeah, another thing that I would recommend as well too is work closely with your partner Stoneridge and your Microsoft account team, and we can look at that together and help provide the best path forward for you. Because like we mentioned before, everybody works differently. Every organization is different. So yeah, just continue to reach out, ask questions, and have us help you along the journey as well. I don't know if anybody had
Dwayne, you were
going to
say, Dwayne was going to say something. Dwayne, was it Dwayne or Kevin?
Say that the existing data quality, don't let that prevent you from entering your opportunities, your contacts, activities in CRM. So you can take this approach, crawl, walk, run, baby steps. So most companies that we deal with, they apologize up front. Oh, my CRM data is horrible. Well, you're not alone. So I would say don't let that stop you from entering data into CRM using Copilot. Well,
and the other thing is, I use Copilot to sift through the data. So for example, I mean, there's a lot of data in anybody's system, in a CRM system that maybe could be 8 years old and 10 years old. Well, I use Copilot to say, I don't want to see anything that's older than 2 years, for example. So, you can leverage Copilot to kind of help, get rid of, kind of the noise, if you will, and get to the actual information that you're looking for as well. So, yeah.
All right, so we have a few more questions here. We'll try to get through it as quickly as possible. Have you noticed a real difference in closing deals since using Copilot, or is it more about saving time? And that could go to anybody.
Yeah, team, are we closing more deals? That's a good question. I love that. Did I put that one in there?
I mean, I could speak for myself personally. You are closing deals faster and more accurate when you are leveraging Copilot. Just going into customer meetings and leveraging Copilot to do any recaps from previous calls, learning more about your customer. And I think the biggest call out is, saving time with those mundane tasks that we've mentioned before. If you're saving so much time, doing those tasks that aren't, impacting a sales goal, then you do have, more bandwidth to close more deals. And I've seen it with myself, with my peers. The more time you save, the more time you have to get more customer face time. So.
Yeah, anytime.
Go ahead.
I was going to say just responsiveness too. So we're pretty early in the process, so we don't have metrics to say, has our close rate or win rate gone up as a result of it, but we're keeping it simple to start with. So, a lot of it's just being more responsive. So the quicker we can get back to our clients, the more responsive, the more intelligent our responses are, should help us increase our win rate. That's the goal. And as we start to collect more information and get better at our data quality in CRM, we'll be able to measure that, and we'll be able to use AI to start thinking more proactively. Like, what can we do to identify priorities so that we can close more business or focus on the right deals because of where our win rates are going to be higher.
I'll give one vignette. This actually, I don't know if it helps close faster, but it definitely got me. I was in the actual CRM tool and in the portion where you can actually get customer updates. And I didn't know this, working with a customer of mine, found out that they got acquired. So like right in the moment, there was a news release. They say they got acquired. I mean, maybe I would have found out, I don't know, a couple of days later or a week later, or maybe never. But I was kind of taken aback because I was, this is in my own CRM. I'm seeing that this company's getting acquired. Instantly got, an email to my prospective customer. Is everything okay? How can we do, just get a little bit more information. So I don't think there's any one thing that helps, that closes deals or anything like that. But I think cutting through noise, getting up-to-date information, being able to summarize, connecting with other folks in your team, in meaningful ways, I think those little steps definitely help a deal move forward.
Yeah, and I think that's what I've liked so much about this journey, is it's been almost at your own pace, right? There's so many different things that Copilot offers that I might use differently than you, Rich. I might use differently than Dwayne at different times. It was rolled out to us, and maybe I ramped up a little slower than the two of you, right? But at my own speed, that technology is there for me, right? So we were talking earlier, what if my data is not clean in CRM? Well, I can start using this to start getting it cleaner. I can start using the Copilot feature to generate emails for me. Maybe I don't use those emails. Maybe it gives me just kind of some thoughts to provoke, thought-provoking email to create my own, but it's there for me. It's just a tool to use. It's not the only way to do things. And maybe I use it a little differently than each person on my team even, but getting toward the same goal is great.
All right, we'll take one more question here. So how long did it take you to get comfortable using Copilot in your daily workflow? So, I mean, you're just kind of getting to that piece. It's kind of building on what you were just saying there, Kevin. Yeah. Yeah,
I think it was almost immediate in portions, right? The key email info, as soon as in minutes when we have it available in my Outlook, I have that pane open or that panel open in my Outlook at all times. And boom, it's there for me right away. So I could start using that within minutes of my first meeting on the team, going through the pilot internally to get it rolled out, which is great. Starting to see value right away. Minutes later, starting to be able to just click the button to add contacts into CRM. So, you learn more and more from it as you use it, and more ways that you can weave it into your process. Like Dwayne was saying earlier, just to recap those meetings and then send follow-ups and all those different components that can come together for you. But it's a very quick ramp up to get started. And then, dare I say, the possibilities are endless for what you can do with it if you really take the time and start to see how it works best for you.